This is the perfect season to talk about dark academia. Many autumn lovers like myself cannot wait like all year for this period. And when it comes to movies or media to consume, we truly care about certain topics, certain vibes that will help us get in the mood for autumn. And one of these is dark academia. Now, I will not get into what it is and how it's supposed to look like or anything like that. There are plenty of videos about it. But in my opinion, these 10 movies fit this category in different ways. Here are 10 dark academia movies I recommend you watch this autumn. Number 1. The Emperor's Club. This is a drama from 2002 that I watched several times, and it always gives me something to think about. It's based on Ethan Canning's 1994 short story, The Palace Thief. Mr. Hundert, a dedicated classics professor at a boys' prep school, faces a moral and personal challenge when a rebellious new student, son of a powerful senator, disrupts his class. As they clash, their battle influences the hearts and minds of the other students, testing Mr. Hundert's ideals and teaching methods. This is perfect for you if you're into history, classical studies, and in general boarding schools and the elite in school. Number 2, Tolkien. It's a biographical drama, meaning that it's based on real life of J.R.R. Tolkien. Tolkien's early life, marked by his mother's storytelling, a deep bond with fellow outcasts, and a tumultuous romance with Edith Bratt, is profoundly shaped by the horrors of World War I. These experiences ultimately inspire him to write the classic fantasy novels The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings. It's interesting to watch, not only if you're a fan of Tolkien's work, but also if you're into dark academia, because a large part of the movie takes place in academia. And based on my personal preference, I don't like Lily Collins, so I would have preferred someone else, like a different actress. But apart from that, I think it's a good movie to watch. Number 3. The Theory of Everything. This is quite similar to the previous one, in the sense that it's again a biographical drama, based on a true story. The movie tells the inspiring story of Stephen Hawking, a brilliant astrophysics student who, despite being diagnosed with motor neuron disease at 21 and given 2 years to live, defies the odds. With the unwavering support of his first wife, Jane, he achieves unprecedented success in cosmology and physics, proving that there are no limits to what one can achieve. This could have easily been on the list for inspirational movies and in other videos I've already released, but I find that it really fits on this list with these other movies, even though academia is not necessarily the main focus of the movie. Number 4, Mona Lisa's Smile. This is a period drama starring Julia Roberts. In 1953, Catherine Watson, a free-spirited art history professor, challenges her conservative students to question the repressive societal norms that define their futures by marriage. She inspires them to seek intellectual freedom and redefine their roles in a changing world. I found this film inspiring and well-crafted. And for once we have a non-horror academic movie set in a female college, because I don't know if you noticed, but there are a bunch of horror movies that take place in creepier and weirder colleges. I don't know exactly why, more than the ones for male students. And this is one of those that it's not scary at all, and actually everybody can watch easily. Perhaps it's not as accurate or mind-blowing, but it depicts the female perspective in academia, in this case in the 1950s. And I would challenge you to watch this movie and think about what has changed and what is still relevant in academia nowadays. Number 5, Another Country. This is a romantic historical drama, and it's loosely based on the life of a spy and double agent. Set in the 1930s, this film explores the early life of Guy Bennett, whose experiences at a British public school, including his homosexuality and rejection of societal expectations, push him towards communist ideals, foreshadowing his future as one of the infamous Cambridge spies. I would say this is almost quintessential dark academia, because you get a male college, the British elite, and a protagonist who is questioning everything in this world because he is not accepted in the first place. And there are a bunch of movies that I will not recommend here that surround similar topics. And perhaps this film is more controversial than others and is not as popular because it's still about a man who turned his back to his country. Even though it's not really the main point that we see discussed in this movie, it's more of a romance actually. So feel free to skip this one and watch others, but if you're into these topics, this is great for you. And before getting to the next 5 movies, here are some honorable mentions, which are movies that I already discussed in previous videos, and you can watch those after this one. And these are Good Will Hunting, Freedom Writers, Dead Poets Society, the Harry Potter series, A Beautiful Mind, The Imitation Game, The Great Debaters, The Professor and the Madman, and finally Scent of a Woman. These can all fit in the dark academia genre, subgenre, for different reasons and in different ways, but I would recommend them all. Number 6, With Honors. This is a bit different because it's a comedy drama that portrays a student's worst nightmare. A Harvard student, confident his thesis will secure his graduation with honors, finds himself at the mercy of a homeless man who holds his work hostage. In exchange for returning the thesis 1 page at a time, the man demands food and shelter, leading to an unexpected exchange that challenges the student's perspective. This is not necessarily a masterpiece or a great movie in itself. It just gives you something to think about. When I was planning this video, I couldn't recall the name of this movie, but I had it stuck in my mind, this fear that the student must have felt. And the same fear that I was feeling watching it. It's just as if, I don't know, your laptop crashed or all your external hard drives crashed and you lost all your work, like a month's worth of work or years, even if it's a PhD thesis. And yeah, now maybe we have a cloud to upload stuff to, but there is still a tiny chance of losing your work, right? And in this case, it's not just about the fact that he has this one copy of his work and a homeless man got it and kept it, but it's also a discussion about why do we care? Why is it important? What's the point of even getting a degree, right? So there is an interesting discussion, and it's certainly not the number 1 movie that you would hear about when talking about dark academia, because it doesn't have this elitist or elegant background. But I would say it still fits the topic because of this attachment to the degree itself and the prestige that comes with that. It still challenges this argument, and that's why I would recommend it. Number 7, Dorian Gray. This is a dark fantasy horror, and I watched it so many years ago that I don't really recall the plot, so I would rewatch it this autumn. And it's clearly based on The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. Dorian Gray, a handsome and charming young man, arrives in London and is seduced by a corrupt lord into a life of sin and indulgence. after wishing to remain as youthful as his newly painted portrait, Dorian's outward beauty endures, while the portrait reveals his inner corruption. As he spirals deeper into darkness, Dorian's secret threatens to destroy him, even as he seeks redemption through a newfound love. This is definitely closer to the Dark Academia aesthetic, and it's, to be honest, the inspiration behind this recent Dark Academia core. And so, if you haven't watched it, perhaps this would give you an idea of what is this entire subgenre about. Number 8, The Great Gatsby. I'm recommending you the 2013 version, but to be honest, the 1974 one is just as good. It just differs a little bit in terms of visuals. And both movies are based on the 1925 novel by the same name by Francis Scott Fitzgerald. In 1922, aspiring writer Nick Carraway moves to New York and becomes entangled in the extravagant world of his mysterious millionaire neighbor, Jay Gatsby. Amid the glittering parties of the Jazz Age, Nick uncovers the illusions, love, and deceptions of the super-rich, leading him to pen a tale of impossible love and unforgettable tragedy. I'm not sure where you can find the 1974 edition, and I think it was on Italian cable, but in here you don't see the classic academic background, rather you see this elite and the extravaganza and the sparkly and fake world in which the rich used to live, or still do, but here we are talking about the rich in the 1920s. And the 2013 release is truly over the top, while still being close to the source material. It's a bit of a stretch in terms of Dark Academia, but still, go ahead and watch it. Number 9, The Hole. I'm referring to the 2001 version. I haven't watched the other one, and it's a British psychological thriller horror. 4 teenagers decide to skip a school trip and hide in an abandoned fallout shelter for a few days of partying. However, when their friend who locked them in fails to return, their escape plan turns into a tense fight for survival. It is a horror, yes, but it's light enough that it's on my list, because, as I said in previous videos, I don't normally watch horror because I cannot stand it. I'm terrified. And so this one was, yes, a tiny bit scary, but not too much. And I decided to put this on my list because, as you can see from the other movies, these are not the classic Dark Academia recommendations that you would get. Here again we have privileged students who play around with life and anything actually, just because they can, right? And all they care about is partying or, I don't know, wasting their lives, to be honest. But if you're looking for a bit of a psychological thriller in this subgenre, this is for you. Number 10, Lean on Me. This is a biographical drama from 1989, and I just watched it for the first time. Based on a true story, the film follows Joe Clark, a determined and controversial principal who takes charge of a struggling New Jersey inner-city high school. Through tough and unconventional methods, he earns the respect and support of his students as he works to transform the school. You undeniably have a controversial main character here, portrayed by Morgan Freeman, but I would say there's a lot to reflect on here. It's definitely not what you would expect from a Dark Academia list, but it's definitely dark in terms of the type of life that these students conduct and the decay in which they live. It's a different type of darkness, for sure. And there's nothing fancy or elegant about this movie. And in a way, it reminds me of Freedom Writers, actually, because we have a quite similar setting, except the main character is not controversial in Freedom Writers and has completely different methods. Here, you could truly criticize him for what he did, and you still have to take into account the times, because the story begins in the 1960s and then the main plot develops in the 1980s, and nowadays these methods would definitely be condemned right away. But I still think you should watch this one because it's still moving and it's definitely a different story to hear. There you have my 10 Dark Academia movie recommendations for autumn 2024. I'm already planning a second part, which will be about TV shows in this subgenre. And stay tuned, because for all of autumn, I will release 2 or 3 cinema-related videos on my channel per month. So far, I've been releasing just 1 of these per month. And that's because I have so many different recommendations in different subgenres. And this is why, if you haven't watched the mystery recommendations yet, go ahead and watch it. There will be, again, a part 2 for that one as well. And we will also talk about supernatural stuff, scary but bearable films, and so on. As always, please leave your recommendations down below. Which are your favorite Dark Academia movies, which I probably have not mentioned? Have you watched anything on this list? Please let me know. And let me know your thoughts, especially on the controversial ones. If you haven't yet, please subscribe, like, share. These tiny things truly help me and this channel. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.